Before we start today's episode, I want to extend an invitation that might just be calling you this February. Build Her Legacy Mastermind is an 8-week restructuring of your life, your money, your identity, and ultimately your future. Most women are trying to build the life they want on top of shaky foundations, unclear of what they truly desire, and unsure how to make money work for them in a way that creates real freedom. As we move into 2026, this is a call to rise and to lead differently, to stop building alone and start co-creating with God. Inside this mastermind, we are going to rebuild with Him at the center so you walk away financially empowered, anchored in your God-given identity, and equipped with the blueprint to build a wealthy life and a legacy worth passing on. We begin February 11th. And if this is landing for you, there is space for you inside Build Her Legacy. DM me on Instagram, the word legacy, or click the link in the show notes to apply. This isn't just another podcast. We're crushing the taboos and we're rewriting the rules. It's the space where we normalize women becoming wealthy. If you're done playing small and ready to become the CEO of your life and the architect of your future, then my girl, you're in the right room. Welcome to your wealthy era. Welcome to the Wellthy CEO podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by a woman who has reshaped the landscape of the pre-construction real estate industry. Debbie Cosic is the founder and CEO of Intuition, one of the most influential sales and marketing firms in North America, responsible for more than $20 billion in real estate sales. She built her company in an industry dominated by men and became one of the most powerful voices in the space. She's a strategist, a visionary, and a passionate leader who has impacted the entire real estate industry. Today on the Wellthy CEO podcast, I have Debbie in studio. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, Shae, it's always a pleasure to see you, and thank you for having me.
So this is a very, very special, I think, moment for myself personally, because I've grown up in real estate. I've grown up in an entrepreneurial household, and you have always been a part of my life. You have been a part of that.
Yes.
And so it's really special. It's an honor for me to have you here today to have a conversation that we don't typically always have at the dinner table or when we're out at restaurants, and diving into so much of not just your success, but the stuff behind the success, what drove it, what built it. And what I would love to talk about before we do talk about empire building and what you have created, I would love to go back a bit to your origin story and maybe something that has not been shared before or typically, the media doesn't hear about in your journey of business.
Absolutely. Would love to share some stuff. But firstly, I want to say that not only am I thrilled to be here, but I'm so proud of you. I've known you since you've been a young girl, and it's wonderful to have seen you grow personally and professionally, and have had the honor to meet your beautiful baby about a month ago. So God bless you all, and thank you for having me again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So share with us a little bit going back.
There's probably an interesting story of when my parents first came to Canada. So my parents came here as immigrants 58 years ago. 58 years ago, with a suitcase. Myself, I was 18 months old. They did not speak the language. They had less than $100 in their pocket, and they slept on a park bench for the first night because they knew they didn't know anybody in Toronto. They're actually supposed to go to Montreal, and somehow the directions got mixed up from where they landed, and they ended up on the wrong train, and they ended up in Toronto. So, Bob's your uncle. They're in Toronto. They don't know anybody. They're sleeping on a park bench, and they decide the next day that they're going to go look for a church steeple, because hoping that a priest would maybe speak one of the Eastern European languages. I have a Croatian background. I was actually born in Croatia. Back then, it was the former Yugoslavia, so it was a strict communist regime, and that's what they were trying to escape. There was no freedom of religion. There was, very strict. You had to belong to the Communist Party. Anyway, it wasn't somewhere that they wanted to raise a family, so they escaped, and they. Lo and behold, after wandering through the city for a couple hours, they found, a large church. They went in, and the priest spoke one of the Eastern European languages, but enough words were similar that they could understand. He could understand that they were refugees, that they were looking for, a shelter, food, home, whatever. And he took them in right away and found them a rooming house that night with a Croatian-speaking lady off St. Clair that ran a rooming house. And there were another dozen families or couples, whatever, single people. There were about a dozen rooms, but I understand. And my parents, till the day that lady passed away, stayed her friend, but she took us in. We lived in a rooming house for the first maybe year and a half. Found, Canada was such a great country, still is a great country, but back then it was a land of opportunity. Like they took my dad and found him a job the next day, and my mother. Before you know it, they both had 2 jobs, and this lovely lady was taking care of me, and they met a bunch of friends in the rooming house that they've stayed in touch with many of these people over the decades. We know their children now and their grandchildren, but they very quickly left the rooming house, found their own, bought their own home, rented their own apartment first, then bought a home within 2 years. And then brought over a load of brothers and sisters. So it really instilled in us this ability to, change your life by, one simple decision. I'm going to North America. My dad wanted to go to America, couldn't get a visa to America, got a visa to Canada. So I'm leaving a communist country, and anything's possible. Like I'm going to just go with the flow, and I'm going to try my hardest. And they were very successful in their lives. So that was always kind of the backbone of our family, that you could achieve anything if you set your mind to it. If my parents could do it, not speaking the language, sleeping on a park bench, both of them became successful entrepreneurs with their own businesses, why can't we do it?
And also with less than $100 to their name here.
Less than $100, exactly.
Miracle upon miracle, and also that determination. When you're very focused on something, it's like you just said, you can do anything. Anything can happen.
And when you instill that in a young child's mind, one of my dad's, and he wasn't educated, he was a plumber, but one of his favorite lines was, you can achieve anything. You can become the president of the world. And we're like, okay, Dad, there is no president of the world. As kids, we used to laugh because it doesn't matter. You can become the president of the world if that's what you want.
I love that. So it is so incredible to think and I didn't know some of this story, actually, your origin story. And I've pretty much known you my whole life. I'm 40 years old now. And when I think of what you have created, one of the most successful and reputable brokerages in really all of Canada, especially in the pre-construction world, right? You are revered for the work that you guys do. And you're sought after. You're a very strong authority in that space. And coming from less than $100 in your family's name to a business that has done over $20 billion in sales and continues to grow. What an incredible story of what is possible.
Oh, thank you. You're far too kind, though.
No. Okay, let's break it down, though. Debbie, tell me, what was the year that you got into real estate first?
I got my real estate license while I was in university. I decided that I was going to get my real estate license. So that would have been, God, Shae, I'm embarrassed that I can't even remember. That's how long ago it was. 35 years ago.
I was going to say probably the 80s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of business back then, it was very male dominated, and you really had to fight and earn your way to the table to be respected in business as a female. And so that's not an easy task. And even today, it's still a lot of women trying to get their place at the table. There's still a discrepancy of what a man gets paid versus a woman, even if they have the same skill set in business. And so when I think of back then in this industry where it's so competitive, it's fascinating really what you did build. And when you look at your entry point, what made you want to get into real estate? Because there's so many things that you could have done.
My dad was quite successful in the plumbing business, and he invested in a lot of real estate over the decades. So he was a partner in a development, and I got a summer job there being a hostess.
Okay.
But I really enjoy this. This is interesting. People come into the sales office, you get to talk to them.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah. And it was almost like this very brief, peek into the pre-construction world. And I thought, okay, let's try this. But I found that actually back then, and even today, being a female, I think, is an advantage. It's how it's how you portray it. It's how you present it. To me, women are. There's wonderful men in this world too, but to me, a female has a sixth sense that just really isn't existent. I find with most men, we have this ability to. We're born multitaskers from the day we were born. You're juggling 4 different roles. You're a mother, you're a businesswoman, you're a wife, you're a sister, you're a caretaker to your parents. It's endless.
Right.
Like women don't come home and rest. We just start the next role. That's
the truth?
Exactly. That's our lives. So you bring that into the boardroom, and it's an asset that's incredible because nothing flusters you. Don't worry. We can launch as many projects as you want. We can work around the clock if we have to, or we can work smarter and work less hours, but still get the same results. I find that with women, anything's possible. And that's why I've surrounded myself with a team of executive females. That wasn't purposeful. It just, as we went through the interviews, they were the ones that kind of floated to the top. They were the best. I found that they were the ones that were just the energy was there, and the ability to want to take on new projects, and the excitement.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we've always harnessed. But taking that sort of female, obviously you have to be smart. Like our executive team is extremely, extremely smart. But these are women that have that sixth sense, that intuition, that ability to just go that extra mile and to be able to bring to a boardroom table what a lot of men simply can't.
Yeah. No, it's true. And it's not, you briefly mentioned it, it's not to anything against men or to poo-poo on males. We're literally built differently. Yeah. Like genetically, we're just built differently. And so like that's part of the power of being female.
Yeah. And utilizing that to your advantage properly, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, all the other attributes have to be there. Like I said, when we hired our team and we put together our executive team, every one of them is whip smart. But they had that extra instinct that sometimes can be a killer instinct because it's that protect your, the motherly instinct. Other times it's just that extra understanding, that intuition, that ability. And, sales has a very soft side to it.
Sure.
So it's lovely to be able to bring that into the boardroom and to understand the experience, the creative juices that you need, along with the business savvy, obviously.
So you talk about this, I'm going to call it this undertoning like superpower that, females can have an advantage in business if utilized properly. Did you ever experience any challenges being female in the real estate industry, like amongst men or even some of the developers where, majority of the owners are males or even brothers? There's many companies where it's like 3 guys. Was that ever a challenge where you were up against maybe another brokerage that is male? And did you have things like that you
Absolutely. I remember when I first went into the project marketing world and first became a sales manager. I was working for a developer and, came out of university, couldn't find a job, and you were just happened to be one of those years similar to now.
Yes.
Very difficult. The job market is very difficult. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try my hand at this. Got my real estate license and was working for a developer, and it was a mid-sized developer. They had about 5-6 projects, and most of their sales agents were older. They're like in their 50s and 60s. Not older now for me, but back then, because I was in my 20s, they seemed like they were old. And lo and behold, after maybe about 6 months, they fired the sales manager, who was maybe in his 60s then. They fired him, and the developer called me in and asked if I'd like to take his position. And I thought, okay, I'm the youngest, like in my 20s. This doesn't make sense. I thought, I'm not sure if I could do this, manage this team of everybody's like twice my age and older. And I thought about it a little bit. He gave me a week to think about it, consulted at home, and everybody was saying, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. So I thought, okay, let's try this. Took the job, and from day one, resistance. First of all, I was the youngest one on the team. Second of all, I was female. Yeah. And not only was I the youngest, I was half their age. So it's like their kid, right? And there was just no way these people would work for the company for 20, 30 years and really thought they had their niche is established, we're going to take orders from you, or any kind of, they just were not going to answer to me. So this went on for a week. I'd send emails, we go into meetings, I asked them to do things. And, I found out that the reason they offered me the job was I was the only one out of the sales team that went that extra mile. I went out and did my own market survey because I wanted to know the 6-7 other developments around there, what they're selling. I typed it up. It wasn't anything fancy like our market research now, but it was a, crude Excel spreadsheet, put it in there so I would know what the competition was doing. And I fired this off to the builder. And he was like, this is awesome. Can you send me this regularly? So I kept sending it to him. Unbeknownst to me, nobody else was doing that.
Right.
I just thought that was the way you should prepare for any job, right?
Sure.
So anyway, after, a couple of weeks of this frustration, I'm like, this is crazy. I don't think I can do this. Went home, was telling my family, and I was speaking to a gentleman who was a very established, successful businessman. And he said to me, it's very easy. You have to pull a Napoleon. And I go, what does that mean? And he goes, you go in there and you pick the one that is the worst, the one that gives you the biggest grief, and you fire them. And then he goes, you watch for a week. If attitude starts to change, then you fire another one. And you just keep going down the line. I obviously have to get your boss's permission to do this. We have to explain, what and why you're doing this and the strategy. By the third person, the other 4 were toying the party line, and some of them stayed with me for like 15 years afterwards. Wow. Even when I left and opened my own company, they came with me. So they realized that this was a no-nonsense. Listen, you can't look at age. You can't look at the fact that I'm a female. And we're here to get a job done, and we're here to excel in this job. And if you don't want to be on board, then you know what? You're off the bus. Sorry.
Yeah. So interesting. And like today, and I always, I would say that intuition isn't just a brokerage, or a firm. It really is a force in the industry. And you did say, the makeup of your team today is predominantly females. I would love to dive a little bit into the culture because you mentioned, some of the team back then are moved over with you and are still with you. You have, and this isn't something you've ever shared with me, but if you follow you on Instagram or you follow your company on Instagram, you can see that there's very, very strong company culture with intuition, which comes from yourself as the CEO, as the leadership. And there's a really strong retention. There's loyalty there. And I don't think it's not by accident. It's very intentional. And so when did you decide you needed to lead different, and how did you decide to lead different? Because creating company culture like that, where you do have such loyalty and retention, you don't see that often, especially in real estate. Those listening, if you're not in the real estate industry, you may not know, it is so common to have realtors, salespeople hopping somewhere else going every kind of 3 years, maybe 5, but it's not common to have people who have been with you for 5+ years, 10+ years.
I think having experienced the other side of the coin, working on multiple jobs, I worked full-time during university. I managed a store. I was a store manager and in university full-time. So being in retail and seeing the way people were treated,
right,
and it wasn't always pretty. Then going to the construction industry and seeing that, really experienced that kind of school of hard knocks, I thought, if I ever have the opportunity to create my own work environment, it's going to be very different. I mean, if I'm not happy going there, I don't expect anybody to be happy going there.
Sure.
So I always had that mantra of you got to love what you do, you got to love the people, surround yourself with the best you can, and if somebody is troublesome, they have to go because we're just not going to allow one person with this negative mentality just upset the apple cart. It's not going to happen, right? So when you start surrounding yourself by people that are like-minded, incredible things. They protect each other. It becomes, I've had jokingly people say, "Oh, the cult," right? I'm like, no, it's not a cult. We just years ago bought into this, and again, that comes from.
I love that though. That's such a compliment. Sorry to interrupt you. The fact, and like I shared earlier, you've never shared with me the retention that you have at your company. You can see it through the posts, and year after year, it's the same girls at the Christmas parties, celebrating their successes when they've hit their sale markers. We all watch that.
And so I actually think it's such a compliment that somebody said
thank you.
that it's a cult because you have this culture that's the loyalty where you really, it's more than a company, you grow as a family. That's what you've created.
Well, people have been with you 15, 20 years. Like my right hand, my VP of Operations, Lishalyn, has been with me for 20 years.
Yeah, like, see.
She started off as a part-time receptionist in the first real estate company that I owned. Went to school, got her double degree in HR, and at one point she came to me and said she was working in marketing as a marketing coordinator. Said, I'm going to follow my dream. I got my degree in HR, and I said, go ahead. Like, I love you, and I know you're going to be back. The door will always be open for you. 2 years later, I get that call, and I can't leave real estate. I can't leave you. Like, I want back. And she's never left. And I believe she will never leave because the culture that she has helped me create within that company. She's has been a big part of that. And so has the rest of my executive team, Liana, Vesna, Andrea, and Jackie, all in their own different roles. And, we kind of took that mentality of it is a man's world in many ways. So let's make ourselves invincible. Let's prove that we are better at it. We believe better at it than most of our competitors. And that's obviously been evidenced by the growth. Like, we've become a national company. We're actually just launched 500-unit project in Halifax about a month ago. So, we've been in Saskatchewan, and Florida, and Texas, and Vancouver, like Ottawa, all over. And that ability to grow and, enter new frontiers and markets is because of this mind frame, this mentality of, it's like a ride or die. Like, your team will do anything for you, and vice versa. They know I have their backs. And from everything, from over the years, helping them get into their homes, helping them when their families were sick, people see this and they appreciate it. Yeah. But it's because it's something that we would want done to us. And I've taken the mentality, it's something that Ralph has taught me. When you're upset about something, step back a little bit and think. Don't react right away. Go home and sleep on it. React to the next one, especially if it's something that's extremely disturbing. And many times, and he's said to me often, treat them the way you would want to be treated. So you step back and think, okay, let's ravel this back and let's see how I would want to be treated in this situation, be it with a developer, but particularly with a team member. And it always works because everybody wants to be treated with dignity and respect. Yeah. They want to be able to flourish and grow. So promoting from within has been a huge thing for us because they've seen, administrators, which are junior level positions in our company on our sales projects, grow to be vice presidents. Wow. Yeah. Over decade, 15 years, whatever. But, we pride ourselves on that. And we don't believe in the churn and burn. I mean, the market hasn't been great recently. So, we've had to downscale like a lot of other companies. But we hope that a lot of those people are going to come back when the market changes.
Right. So you brought up firing, and a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, as they're like growing, scaling their teams, are uncertain as to like when is a good time to fire. Like, how soon do you fire? How many chances do you give to somebody? What's kind of your position on how late is too late? How quick do you see that person out the door?
Well, we're very slow in hiring. We usually promote from within, so it's you have the luxury of seeing that person over the years.
Right.
And sometimes the most unlikely people end up being superstars if they're given the opportunity. And you find that the mouse that sat in the research corner and you never heard from, but the work that came out was incredible,
right,
given that opportunity and brought to the next level and then brought to the next level and properly mentored by their vice president or the director, whoever they answer to. Once you've given people this opportunity, they're lifers. They're not going anywhere because they know that it would have been very difficult for them to have shone in other circumstances.
Yeah.
So we found that over the years, we fired very, very few people. I mean, it was because of that, I think that was a big play of, you watch somebody for such a long time, you know them intimately before you move them into that role.
Sure.
But, I have a pretty no-nonsense team too. They know that if you're on board, you have to be tough and hardworking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of softness when it comes to having fun. We believe in working hard, playing hard, giving back. Huge philanthropy runs throughout our whole company, and everybody participates in all kinds of charitable events, boards. committees, etc. But you get to see people's, their true makeup
Sure.
over the years, right?
Yep.
So, but, the few times that we've had, it has to be fast.
Yeah.
Let's say we've had to hire staff and for whatever reason it didn't work out. Unfortunately, I don't usually deal with that.
Yeah, luckily for you.
Of operations
Yes.
and the HR department does.
Yeah.
But it has been very rare. It's actually become a standing joke because every year at Christmas we would, give lovely gifts to our staff and the team would bring in the list and it'll be the 10-year, the 15-year, the 20-year, like whatever it was that we were giving them. And I'd look at the list and I go, why does this list keep getting bigger? Like it became a joke.
Yeah.
And they're like, because nobody leaves,
Yeah.
right? Like, can some of these people leave because Christmas is so expensive? But anyway, no, that's all joking aside. We always enjoyed that and we believe that, big believer in, just sharing the wealth because this industry, I'm very grateful, has been very generous and good to myself, my family, my loved ones, and my work family. So I want to be able to share some of that, and hence like our investment fund and like the gifts and the trips and all this stuff that people would see online. They'd be like, "Oh, it's so glitzy." I'm like, they worked very hard for that. They deserve every single bit of it they got. Right.
So talk to me a little bit about, you've orchestrated billions in sales, and obviously that kind of scale requires more than just a hustle, right? There's a lot of strategy, intentionality behind that. What do you find most people misunderstand about selling real estate?
I think most people think that we are, the realtors really aren't professionals, that it's, a quick fix. They just do that. Oh, you sold that $5 million property. Oh, 5 times 5 is $250,000. Well, my doctor doesn't earn that. I didn't earn that.
Right.
You get crazy comments like that. I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. First of all, even the luxury realtors, like your dad and yourself, for years deserved every penny they earned because of their niche market and how they, sold and marketed those properties and their knowledge, inherent knowledge, that back pocket knowledge. There's a huge value to that. But for us in the project marketing, it was very much, we stopped calling ourselves real estate agents or real estate. We call ourselves strategists, real estate strategists, because we spend so much time up front designing these communities with developers. And now we're fortunate enough that we're doing very large a lot of master plan communities. Like we're selling a part of Lakeview Village, which is 14,000 units. We're not selling the whole 14, but we are represented there with Brandhaven Homes. We're selling a large community for Deco in Picton, which is the old Base 31. It has this beautiful historic dimension to it that they're going to keep. So it's going to be something like an old distillery district feel, but with beautiful homes around it. And that's tens of thousands of homes that are going to be there. We also, one of our flagships was like Parkside Village, where we have, we sold over 6,000 units in 15 years. We have 16 towers at Square One that we've sold, with another 4 to sell before we complete that community. But you can only do that through strategy, being involved with the developer, the master planning. So we, as project marketers, we don't just sell real estate. That's a takeout at the end. We're involved in the design of the product. We're involved in the marketing of the product. We're involved in the interior design of the product. So we're involved in every single step. But developers usually turn to us first, and they have billion-dollar developments, and they'll say, well, what do you think I should put here? So, that's not a light question. You have a very experienced team of often architects, engineers, designers, all accountants, like the whole gamut that will sit in our meetings, and they turn to us to be able to help position that project and to be able to come up with the market research to tell them what should be built there and what to price it at and how to position it. So we are strategists because we spend, on a large community, we'll spend up to 2 years planning it in advance.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So the actual sales portion is a very small portion of that whole
It's icing
circle.
on the cake.
It's the icing.
Right? Yeah. So obviously this is, you just shared extensively around what goes into behind the strategy. What is one of the first things that you look for when you're in a development meeting, probably in that infancy phase where they're coming to you, whether the project is going to be successful or not?
I think being like-minded, a developer that is open-minded, that is looking to, to embrace what we will bring to the table.
Yeah.
I mean, when you come and you meet with a developer and they're like, no, just the way you always used to be, well, we're not really often interested. We're very selective because we can afford to be now after all these years. So most of our builders are AAA or A builders. We will take on some B-level builders. But that's if the synergy is there and we believe that they can grow and that they will, treat us with respect. I've, famous for walking out of boardrooms of just simply saying, you're not going to treat my staff like this. It's over. Like, I will not tolerate disrespect. Neither will I allow my staff to disrespect anybody else.
Sure.
It's, it's a two-way street. So like-minded, people that are innovative, obviously they have to pay their bills. That's very important, right?
Yeah.
But so that they have the reputation, because people that developers that are well-rounded and are here for the long run are the kind of developers that we're looking for.
Yeah. Hey, friend, if this conversation is speaking to you, please do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button and leave a review. It's how we grow the show, reach more women, and build a future where Wellthy is female. This isn't just content. This is an invitation to a new society for women. Let's rise and build it together. So I want to pick your brain a little bit on the current market climate. Obviously, you and I are both in real estate. We sit on different sides of the table, you being in pre-construction and me on the resale side predominantly. And there's always so much noise happening in the media, right? So, and depending on what news channel you turn on, it's good, bad, or worse, there's always and none of us have a crystal ball, but similar, of course, to my father, you've been in it for multi-decades where you've seen the trends. You've gone through the 80s with interest rates when they were 5 times what they are right now. It's always, it's not, I don't want to say funny, but I kind of half smile sometimes when I hear realtors that are around my generation that they're like, interest rates are so high. I'm like, yeah, except they didn't go up to almost 20% and gold skyrocketing and major bankruptcies happening then. And, the 2008 crash as well had its own cycle. But this is what real estate does, right? We have these market trends. And this time round, the condo market specifically in pre-construction and also resale is, I'm going to say, hurting the most. And so we don't have a crystal ball, but I would love to just get your thoughts on where kind of you see the market advancing to into 2026.
There's still a lot of inventory in pre-construction, about 21,000 unsold homes. So this inventory needs to be absorbed, obviously. And, we are looking forward to the government to help us, to help Canadians become homeowners by coming out with some policies in this past budget. And unfortunately, I don't think it's accomplishing what we needed.
Yeah.
There's going to be a GST and an HST rebate, but for first-time buyers up to $1 million, and then from 1 million to 1.5 is going to be scaled. It's not good enough to be for first-time buyers. We need the market in general to just give it a shot, an injection. There are fantastic opportunities for those that have the ability to purchase now, and we're seeing in our sales offices is families buying for their kids.
Okay.
They're taking this opportunity to say, okay, I have a young child. Look at the rate of home prices over the last couple of decades. Are my kids going to be able to afford a home?
Yeah.
And are they going to end up living in Sault Ste. Marie while I'm in, Oakville or in wherever, High Park, because they can't afford to live here?
Right.
So I would say that, that old Warren Buffett adage, it's you buy when the market's down, right? This is when the shrewd people are buying real estate. 'Cause I have seen incentives now. I haven't seen this in my 30 years. I'll give you one example. The Grand in Pickering, a development, that multi-phase development. We've sold 8 buildings for Chestnut Hill there. They're on the Pickering GO station. They are giving away, it's a 4-year closing, which for developers usually means 4.5 or 5 years. And then for 3 years after, zero mortgage, zero taxes, zero maintenance. So imagine somebody is buying that for their child and says, you know what? They also have property. We have property management and leasing division that can make it fully turnkey for these people. So you purchase and you forget about it for 8 years.
Right.
You get a direct deposit from the developer for the cash back of, the mortgage, taxes, maintenance, and you get your rent deposited.
Wow.
So like we're telling people on a regular 25-year mortgage, if you take this rent that you're going to get for the 3 years and pump it back into the mortgage, it brings it down to about 16-year amortization. And then if your child is 5, 6, 7, you've got another, 10 years maybe before they want to be homeowners or even longer, right? Mm-hmm. So then you turn around and you rent it again.
Yeah.
So by the time your child's ready, this condo is paid off. It's got a third of the mortgage left on it. Yeah. Like what a brilliant gift to give to your child 100%. For such a small amount of investment when it comes, because it's 20% over almost 3 years of deposit stretched out, 2.5 every 6 months. It's just a fantastic opportunity. But we have seen offerings like this that we haven't seen since the 80s, basically, in the marketplace.
And is this like I'm going to say like across the board? Are you seeing this amongst all different developers?
The majority of developers that are currently actively selling have had to sharpen their pencils. And that's part of our job is to come in there, reposition, remarket, retool them, and bring them back out onto the marketplace. So we've had some success with some of these fantastic programs that are being offered. But I'm finding that, the market's slowed down. There's no doubt about it. The government has not done enough. It's simply they're pouring $60-something billion into building rental properties or subsidizing or helping, investors and developers build rental properties. That's great because we're also in the purpose-built rental world. But at the end of the day, the great Canadian dream is to own a house. Yeah. Even like my parents came here as immigrants. That's all they wanted was their own house. They wanted a house for their children eventually, and likewise. I mean, that's been the biggest joy of our industry is providing homes to people. Definitely. And you know what? We don't look at investors as a negative entity. I mean, the media makes it seem like they all have horns, right? But if you have to think that over the years, all these people that bought condos put them into rental pools. Mm-hmm. We have many developments where we sell 500 units, and there'd be 300 or 400 put into a rental pool. So this is providing rental stock for free. So why is the government giving X amount of billions of dollars to build rental stock when the developers already have it?
Right.
Help them. Yeah. Give them a little injection. Give us a little bit more incentive to the buyer so the buyer can become a homeowner.
Yeah. Well, I love that you brought up the example of these incentives and for parents that are starting to think to purchase for their child, not young adult, like a kid that could be 7 years old, and the longevity. I had a new client actually of mine that the reason why she called me was she wants to give her daughter, who's 26, her inheritance now. And she wants to put it into home ownership because if she waits until she passes, she's probably only in her 60s. So she could have a solid 20, 25 more years. And she's thinking in 25 years from now, what real estate could look like when we think of today, and it's already so hard for a 20-something to be a homeowner. What's that going to look like in 25 years from now with so much unknown with the government and the landscape of Canada? And so I commended her and I said, it's a fantastic idea that you are doing, and that I wish that other parents would also think that way, that if you know that you have a nest egg that you're going to be giving to your child as part of the inheritance, to think like, just what you had suggested is to give your child their inheritance now that they can enjoy, or if they're a child, 7, 8 years old, they're going to be able to grow into this asset when they're older.
Well, absolutely, because the average condo is just under $700,000. You have to put 20% down. This is over like a 3-year period of this broken up deposit, right? So that comes to $140,000 deposit, which translates in 20 years when you give it to your child or when they're ready to take on home ownership, translates, it's going to be a couple of $1 million by then. Yeah. Like what a great growth trajectory. Like you just most people couldn't do that. But for me, it's been particularly, I've seen it with my generation. because we have kids that are grown, older and getting married, and where do they live? So now everybody's biggest, unless they're independently wealthy, they can write their child a check or help buy a house right away. They're like, why didn't I invest years ago? My child's living in Sudbury. This one's in Brantford. This one had to go, live in Portugal. Like I'm hearing all kinds of stories. People are heartbroken that they did do this earlier for their kids, that they could. And listen, your child may be 15 and only has a 10-year runway, but you're still going to pay off almost half of that mortgage in 10 years. Like that's a huge gift to be able to give to somebody. Right? And again, I often say to my friends, it's for selfish reasons because we want our kids near us. We want to be able to see our grandchildren one day. We don't want them living in Timmins because that's all they can afford.
And I mean, once they start having children either, you don't want to be away from your family either, from your parents. It takes a village. And if your village is scattered everywhere, that's not enjoyable or helpful.
Absolutely. So this is the perfect opportunity with aging population. That means the kids are getting older, to think about this. I mean, we launched the Wild last year on Glencairn and Marley for Chestnut Hill Developments also, and it was on the subway line. And I remember the first day I was working the sales floor, and this older gentleman, a grandfather, came in from the neighborhood and bought 3 units from me. And everybody was like, "Oh, you're a superstar." I'm like, "Oh, no. He was hell-bent. He was going to buy 3 condo units for his 3 grandchildren that were like in baby carriages, basically." And he said, "No, I help my kids get into homes. Now I want to make sure, exactly like your friend, part of the inheritance that I would leave them, I'm going to make sure that they have condos. When they grow up, these are paid off."
I love that.
Brilliant.
Yeah. One of the things I talk a lot on the podcast about is most people we're wired to be more short-sighted, where we think of like a 12-month cycle period. And, for me, I have, 12-month focus, my 5-year plan, but my 10-year vision. And now, even more so now having a child, it's actually pushed me out, not just for her generation growing up, but for her children who are not even born yet, And so really starting to think in multi-generations and what can you be doing today so that when she has children and if I'm not around, exactly what you just said, like are her kids going to be taken care of and what can I do right now to support them? And so, I'm starting to do things like taking out whole life policies that will I have one now on Koa, my daughter, so that when she passes on, she's going to have $7.3 million tax-free that she's going to be able to transfer to her children tax-free. Right. And it's like, I wish, and again, my parents, you only know what you know at the time that you know it. And my parents, similar to, your family, were immigrants to the country, and you do what you can with what you have and the knowledge that you have. And so I don't have a whole life policy on me. I know that. I think anyways, maybe it'll be a surprise, but I don't think I have one. So that my parents had taken one out on me. So even myself, I'm like, I now have a whole life policy, but it's going to be a lot less than what I'm able to give to Koa versus what I'm able to give to her kids because she's so young. And so it's like, how can you start to think in that multi-generation so that when you're gone, you are creating that generational wealth that's passed down?
Very, very important. The younger you start, the better. Real estate is a long game. And I always tell people you have to be patient, and the decades go fast.
Yeah.
And you build your portfolio slowly. If you look at some of the wealthiest people in our country, they own massive real estate portfolios, or that's their game.
Yeah.
Real estate. I mean, or they're in other industries, but they've purchased real estate. Like, to me, it's sticks and bricks because I've always been in that business. I'm not taking anything away from the stock market or insurance or anything. That's never not my business. I don't know it inside out.
Yeah.
I know in real estate, I know that people, you're going to get your negative naysayers. "Oh, I know so-and-so's, their house has dropped $500,000. This guy's house has dropped $1 million." You're right. Just hold it. It's all going to come back.
Right.
And it always does.
Yeah.
And when you look at the 10-year and then another 10 years, as you said, the multi-generational, those homes are not going to disappear.
Yeah.
They're not going to be worth zero.
Yeah.
They're going to be worth millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So not only do you have this long-term investment, but you're providing a shelter for your child.
Correct.
And you're keeping them within your family environment. Like that, as you said, that village, that circle of love. Italians used to joke, like Ralph's family, about the hot sauce district. You got to live close to your grandmother, so
Yeah.
you go pick up the food from her, right?
Totally.
These
Yes.
old people are so wise. Like, that's so true. Like, that's, and as you get older and more wise when it comes to, many, many things in life, you think, what is the most valuable thing? It's your family. It's the love that you surround yourself with. It's that village that you can create, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and to your point, real estate has its own cycles. You and I obviously know that very well, and that the long game and you holding it, that it will come back. And one of the conversations we continue to have amongst clients, with my other colleagues, is how we are going to recover from this cycle. If it's going to recover, I personally don't think it's going to recover traditionally how it has in the past. I really believe that things are orchestrating that we're moving towards more of like a renter economy, very similar to London or to New York, which as an investor, or if you have the ability, it encourages further to get into asset ownership now. And, you already said the best time to buy is when it's down, and things are soft right now and there are opportunities. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on that. If you think that the renter economy here is that coming? Am I off in saying that? But that's part of, what I've shared with even some of my younger clients, to say, regardless of what rates are doing, your opportunity to own an asset is so important, because there really could come a time where it could be really outside of reach or scope on your own.
So there's a need for everything. There's a need for purpose-built rentals, and that's one of the markets that we also lease. There's a need for ownership. There's a need for investment ownership also. Mm-hmm. I think there's more than enough need for everything to go around. But if you look at the people that have built, as you mentioned earlier, generational wealth, and wealth that is it's like a toll booth. Real estate properly manages like a toll booth. Mm-hmm. So really, we were fortunate enough to inherit some properties from our parents, and every month the rent comes in. It's really nice to see that in your bank account.
Totally.
And there's a little bit of maintenance and management that somebody else takes care of, and you pay them. So if you want to get yourself in life to a point that, maybe you're retiring, you're thinking of retiring, you're slowing down, whatever, you have to have money coming in. Where's that money coming from? Right. We can't continue the hustle forever and the grind.
Yep.
You've got to set yourself up, be it like what you're doing for your child with, strategic life insurance. That's brilliant. But I find that the easiest thing is build that wealth very simply. Buy one unit or one home at a time. One leads to another. And we're not saying go and buy 50 units. No. We're saying buy one. Make sure you can manage it, that it's, good for you when it comes to a financial downturn. You can still hold on to it. And then you slowly build on to that. And the long game. The long game will pay it off, and then money will come in.
Yeah.
So that to me is... I think that's the ultimate goal, to have financial freedom in whatever shape or form. And some people are stock market savvy, so they can do that from the stock market. I just simply can't. Yeah. And most of my circle of friends couldn't. Sure. So they turn to real estate, because you buy one door and you rent it, and you put on a little spreadsheet on your computer, and you just look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie, right? So it's really an easy formula. You don't have to be a sophisticated investor like you often have to be in the stock market. It's a very easy game to master. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to own 1,000 doors, 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever it is, eventually to make your family, or to give your children home ownership. If you have 2 kids, 3 kids, maybe you want to buy a unit for each, and then eventually one for the grandchildren. That we call that the tiptoe investor, and we embrace that. We think that is part of the backbone of our economy, and that everybody should be doing that.
Yeah. Obviously I'm in real estate, so, majority of my portfolio is in real estate. I very firmly believe in that. And I'm also, I have some investments in the stock market, but similar to you, it's not an industry or an area of investing that I heavily understand. And so that's not where majority of my investments are. I do believe in diversifying, But I also really believe that like whatever you're investing in, you should understand it, you know, and real estate is one of those things that we're always going to need housing. There's always going to be people, and that need is there. And you mentioned it before that some of the most iconic family legacy names in the world, they all have huge real estate holdings, you know, that they've built their wealth on. So, yeah. Well, Debbie, talk to me a little bit about legacy, because you have built an empire. And, you know, you've done the deals, you've got the development, you have so much respect for your name in the industry. What does legacy look like for you now?
Well, legacy is the next generation. So I'm very fortunate. I have a couple of nieces and nephews that are like my children. And I'm hoping that as they finish school and mature, I'm a big believer that they have to go work elsewhere first, that they will come into the family business. Hopefully, I'm not forcing anybody to. Yeah. But, you know, I also marry that whole legacy with my work family also, because many of them are like my children, too. They've been with me for so long, and I've seen their various progressions of life, from getting married to having kids, to now their kids going to university. Like, it's a full-scale cycle. So I had always said that I believed in, sharing the wealth. That's why we had an investment fund at work where we participated as a group in investing in the projects that we sold. Sure. So we'd buy units or townhouses or whatever, with the goal that eventually, we could spin that fund off and sell it. And as realtors, we don't have a pension. We're all independent contractors or operators, so that we would have a little bit of residual, wealth at the end to share. So that's part of that legacy, is not just seeing my family flourish, but also, seeing our team have some kind of security as the years go on. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, I agree, and I love that you do that. Because you're raising up the next generation within your own company, I'm sure you already do this. But for those listening, I would love for you to share, when you think about legacy and the next generation rising up of founders and business leaders, what advice would you want to leave them with?
I think they need to go cut their teeth elsewhere. They need to understand what the real world is like, not the world beneath that we're protecting them from in many ways as they're growing up. And you also want to raise children that are grateful and want to give back, and they can have the same sort of gratitude towards not just yourself, but towards the rest of the team and the company. And don't come in there like a bull in a china shop. We worked very hard to get where we are and to have the culture that we have, so I wouldn't let anybody upset that. I think that that's important, that they understand that. And likewise with my peers, your kids should go out there and experience the school of hard knocks and then come into the company if they so choose. We're not forcing anybody to. Yeah. None of them may come into the company. You never know, right? Sure. Yeah. I mean, ultimate happiness is what we want for them. We want them to be good people and, again, good, grateful people for what we have in life.
Yeah. Debbie, in closing, if anybody listening today is wanting to take advantage of some of these opportunities that are happening in the market, and you shared one fantastic example out in Pickering, how can people best connect with you so that they can find some of these opportunities with you?
Tell them to go on our Instagram or Facebook and just DM us. Okay. That's the easiest. They don't have to remember anything. Everybody knows that, and somebody will respond right away. So. Okay,
and we will put all of your Instagram handles, the website as well, will also be in the show links.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you again, and looking forward to watching baby grow over the next few years grow up.
Thank you. Well, it means so much to me that you came today. If something in today's episode resonated with you or sparked a shift, tag me on IG or send me a DM. I genuinely love hearing what lands for you. And if it spoke to you, share it or leave a quick review. It helps more women find this show and step into their own wealthy era. Until next time, lead with purpose, live with intention, and stay wealthy.